Hello everybody and welcome to the table. Today we're taking a look at a brand new knife. This comes from Boker, and to be specific, Boker Magnum. So this right here is the Boker Magnum Rockstub in blue aluminum. So we can see designed in Germany, made in China. So for those of you who aren't aware, the Magnum line of Boker are basically the lowest end Chinese made knives in their lineup. So a lot of different designs and styles, but generally lower end materials. And this one right here I think is punching a bit above its weight. So we have the Rockstub right here. Comes in two different variants. We have this one right here with the beautiful stonewash blade, as well as these blue, shiny blue aluminum handles. Looks really attractive. They also have this same knife with micarta if you want maybe a grippier handle knife, but same knife, same size, and they did a lot right here. So we can take a look at the Rockstub, make some comparisons maybe on the table as well. But of course, the first and most noticeable thing about this knife, besides these big blue handles, we have an axis lock right here. So the crossbar lock, you can see it's pretty well done actually on this knife, and the Rockstub here, it runs on bearings, so it's very, very easy to actuate, and it's so springy. Like you can just see, just pushing it down, the blade wants to come out. Like it's dancing in there, like it really wants to open, you know. So it's fairly easy to do so. So the pretty good implementation of the axis lock design, in my opinion. But this blade right here, this is kind of a winner. So we have a drop point blade with this really nice stonewashed finish on there. And on this side, we have the Boker Magnum logo. Dual thumb studs, and of course they're also that same blue color. So if blue is your color, this is your knife 100%. And we can also see our blade steel here is kind of a unique choice. So this blade steel is some 440B. And yes, you are looking at that right, 440B. Fairly uncommon, to be quite honest with you, in the knife industry at this point. We often see 440A knives, especially in the Boker Magnum lineup. I will say the majority of their knives are in 440A because it's a very inexpensive steel to machine and manufacture. But we also see knives in 440C as well, and a lot of those are fairly budgety knives, but here in the middle, we get a 440B blade, and I know when it's done right, 440B can be a very excellent steel. So I'm not sure how Boker Magnum has heat treated it or whatnot, but I think it's a pretty nice style choice for this one, because even though this is in the Magnum lineup, a lot of nice things about this knife. So we have axis lock mechanism, we have that 440B steel. When we look on the reverse, we have the deep carry pocket clip. So this clip actually carries super deep. I mean, when this knife is in your pocket, like you can't really see the blue at all. All you see is the pocket clip. So it carries very deep. Unfortunately, it's not a reversible pocket clip, so it's only going to be in this one position, right-hand side, tip-up carry. So just keep that in mind as well. But they do give us this really big lanyard hole right here. So this is a huge size lanyard hole, so you can easily fit full-size paracord in there if you like having lanyards on your knives. So they did think that out, which is really nice. It's very, very fidgety, so this is definitely a fidgeter's dream. That axis lock is done pretty well, as a matter of fact. You can see the centering right here is pretty darn good as well. And with a knife on bearings, usually the centering, especially for an axis lock style knife, is usually going to be pretty good. So no rubbing, no play or anything. So when this knife is open, it is pretty much rock solid. Very nice implementation. So the only downside here, if I had to say anything negative about this knife, because there's always something negative about every knife out there, is that the spring in the axis lock, it's actually fairly weak for what I would consider a good axis lock knife. So that does make the knife really easy to actuate and to open and to close, especially when you're doing it like this. But it actually makes it one of the few axis lock style knives that I can just shake the blade out of the handle. So just like that, I didn't touch the axis lock, but I was able to, with enough force, get that blade out of the handle and it deploys. So I don't think it's going to open in your pocket or anything. It's really not that weak, but it is pretty noticeable. You definitely feel that that blade really wants to buck out and let itself be known. So, I mean, look at that. Like that blade is dying to come out and say hello. So really cool knife. And again, this knife is so reminiscent of many other great designs. So look at this handle. Look at the handle shape right there. From the back of it to these two finger grooves right here, does this remind you of anything? In my opinion, this is very, very Sebenza-like. If you look at a Sebenza, I think 25, you can see a very similar handle shape here. Not like it's cloned or anything, but you can see really where they got their design inspiration, even from this curve back here. Kind of reminds me a lot of the older Sanrenmu knives, which were Chinese knives that were also trying to kind of emulate the style of the Sebenza. And this version here with the aluminum handles, even more so, because it's that metallic look, very similar shape to what the Sebenza looked like. So pretty interesting design choice. This drop point blade is absolutely gorgeous, and the drop point blade actually reminds me of one of the knives we have here on the table, which we'll look at in just a second. But typical to a lot of overseas designs that are trying to save on weight, we can see in here that the insides are slightly skeletonized, so they didn't mill out some pockets in the steel frame or in the steel liner, and that does save us some weight. So with aluminum handles here, we do have a weight of about 3 ounces, so almost 3 ounces even. But looking at the specs of the knife overall, let's just look at the length. Because this is not a large knife. We can see our blade length right here. This is coming in at about 2 3/4 inch long blade, and overall length is coming in at about 6.5 inches. So this is definitely in the small to medium size everyday carry category, but fits the hand pretty well. There is some very effective jimping here on the spine, so that feels good in hand, so no issues with that. But just really good build quality for what we got here. But I do want to make some comparisons to some other knives I have on the table to give you an idea of the size if you're familiar with these models. But again, I mentioned that blade shape. When I first saw this advertised, at first glance, I actually thought it was the Banter. So the Wee Knives Banter, Ben Peterson's design. And I actually have a Banter right here. This is the donut version of the knife, but you can see the similarities in the size and the shape. Because I literally thought that this was a Banter at first until I took a closer look, because the original Banter comes with blue scales. But you can see the size consideration right here. They are very, very similar in overall length. But also kind of in this same size category, I wanted to show off this right here. This is just the Kershaw Cryo. The Cryo, super popular model with Kershaw, and I love this blacked out version, so we can put this on the table here as well. And again, you can see the size similarity between the Rockstub and the Kershaw Cryo. So if you want that sweet spot of knife blade that goes between, say, 2.5 to 3 inches, these are knives that are something that you should strongly consider. All three of these are really, really good values, to be honest, in my opinion. But great size comparisons here, so we can flip those over briefly, and you can see what we're looking at. So great knives, and I'm really impressed because, again, the Boker Magnum line here, this is definitely a budget line, but this knife right here is really, in my opinion, not a budget knife. I mean, it comes in at about 30 bucks, but the fit, the finish, the blade steel on this is all punching above its weight. So in my opinion, this is a really must buy if you're into this size of knife. Even if you don't like this blue aluminum, go for it with the micarta version. The micarta version has a really gorgeous, like a black wash blade coloration, and I think it looks really good too. It was kind of a hard decision deciding which of the two to purchase, and at about 30 bucks, I mean, you really can't go wrong. You know, so great comparisons there. Pretty interesting, and I hate to sing a knife's praises like this so much, but it's really not a whole lot wrong with it. I mean, unless you really hate like a loosey-goosey axis lock action, that's really the only complaint. But even then, that makes it all the more fun and easy to fidget with. So really cool design. So Boker Magnum, you guys did really good with this model here. Make more like this. So says I. Hope you all enjoyed watching this video. I hope you all have a nice day, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.